All right, diving into second marriages today. Specifically, why some work and others, well, don't.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic.
It is. And we're using this chapter, it's from Second Marriages, why 40% succeed and 60% don't.
It's lots to unpack there.
For sure. Stats, advice, makes you think about like head versus heart kind of stuff.
Yeah, this chapter really zeroes in on that, how emotions can kind of hijack your decision making,
Yeah.
especially in relationships. Like the author starts off with a story about, get this, accidentally packing his mom's underwear for boarding school instead of swim trunks.
Oh, I remember that. Hilarious, but also kind of makes you think, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was so focused on getting a swimsuit, didn't even realize what he'd grabbed.
Blinded by the excitement, basically.
That's the point. Just like that, we can be blinded by, new love, all that intensity. That's where this love alert system idea comes in.
Okay, what's that? Like a warning siren or something?
Kinda. It's that internal alarm that goes off when you're super attracted to someone. But that initial rush, that love at first sight feeling, often based on surface stuff.
So, like, your brain's tricking you into thinking this is it before you even know the person.
Exactly. Mistaking that initial spark for, like, real compatibility, that's the danger zone. That's why the getting to know process is so important.
Right, going beyond the surface.
Yeah, you got to understand their character, values, goals. Like admiring a beautiful house from the outside versus actually living in it, seeing how the plumbing works.
Love that analogy. And speaking of things working, the author mentions Dr. Gary Chapman, the 5 love languages guy. How does that fit into making a second marriage actually work?
It's huge. Because, see, that initial euphoria, it fades. Studies show it typically only lasts 24 months.
Yeah.
And what's left after?
Right, what then?
Hopefully a deep understanding of how you and your partner, like, give and receive love. If you're speaking different love languages, always missing the mark on what makes the other feel appreciated, resentment builds.
Makes sense. So even if you've got that love alert system blaring, you got to put in the work to like learn your partner's love language.
Cool. That initial spark is just the start. And honestly, the stats on second marriages, kind of grim. Did you know something like 60% of second marriages in America end in divorce?
Whoa, really? That's higher than first marriages, right?
It is. 40% for first marriages, 60% for second. Author argues a lot of those failed marriages come from mistaking attraction for rightness.
Meaning like just because there's a spark doesn't mean it's the right fit long term.
Exactly. Attraction matters, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. Real compatibility.
Yeah.
You need shared values, good communication, willingness to face life's curveballs together.
So how do you avoid falling into that trap?
Well, the chapter gets into this thing called the thought-feeling-behavior cycle.
Yeah.
Basically, our thoughts impact how we feel, and those feelings drive our actions.
Okay, I'm following. But how does that play out like in a second marriage specifically?
Okay, imagine someone enters a second marriage, but they're still carrying resentment, negativity from their first.
Baggage, yeah.
Exactly. If they're constantly thinking things like, all men, women are the same, or I'll never be happy, those thoughts fuel feelings of anger, distrust, pessimism.
And those feelings they lead to.
Actions, maybe picking fights, withdrawing emotionally, even sabotaging the relationship.
Ah, so it's like a domino effect. Negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative actions, negative outcome.
Precisely. And this cycle can be tough to break because it's often happening below the surface.
Wow.
That's why the author stresses recognizing your thought patterns and choosing to challenge those negative ones. He suggests this 3-step technique.
Okay, lay it on me. What are the steps? Setting boundaries for your thoughts. That's kind of a new one for me.
It's about being mindful, right?
Yeah.
What are you letting take root in your mind? Instead of dwelling on the past, all those hurts, assumptions about relationships, the author says, focus on the good stuff.
Okay, I can see that.
He even quotes Philippians 4:8. Think about things that are true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable. Like, you have the power to choose where your attention goes.
That's a good point. But what if those negative feelings, they keep coming back, even when you're trying to think positive?
That's where step 2 comes in acting better than you feel.
Wait, so even if you're still feeling kind of crappy?
You got to act like you're not. Might sound weird, but the author argues sometimes you got to act your way into a new feeling.
So like even if you're still hurt or resentful,
Yeah.
you choose to do something nice for your partner. Or start a conversation calmly, lovingly, even if you don't totally feel it yet.
Exactly. Break the cycle. Your actions, they don't just impact your partner, they reinforce your own feelings too.
Right, if you keep acting out of anger, that anger is going to stick around.
Exactly. But if you act kind, understanding, even when it's tough, You can start to change those internal patterns.
It's like that fake it till you make it thing.
Kinda. It's about retraining your brain. And this takes discipline, being intentional, choosing to act according to your values, even when your emotions are pulling you in a different direction.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there's step 3, the one that's maybe a little more personal for the author, submitting to God, he calls it.
Right.
I'm curious, how does that fit in with all this stuff about emotions and making good decisions in a second marriage?
Good question. And it's important to say this step might not resonate with everyone, depends on your beliefs, but the core message is about letting go of control.
Like not needing to control every little thing in the relationship.
Yeah. The author, from his perspective, he says, surrendering to a higher power brings peace, acceptance. Like you're not carrying the weight of the whole world on your shoulder.
It is kind of freeing to think about it that way.
And surrender, it doesn't mean becoming passive or anything. It's about knowing your limits, being open to guidance, support from something bigger than yourself.
So not necessarily just God, but maybe prayer, meditation, nature, even good friends and family.
Exactly. Whatever helps you release that pressure of having to control everything.
Not feeling alone in it all.
Right. And the author specifically talks about prayer, right? He sees it as a way to tap into the source of marriage itself.
Interesting. He also talks about how when you enter a second marriage, you each bring your past, your baggage, your habits.
Trying to merge two separate universes.
Yeah, and that can't always be easy.
It's bound to create friction. You're bringing the past into the present. Old wounds, insecurities, those patterns of behavior, they can pop up and cause conflict.
So where does prayer fit in with dealing with all that?
He suggests prayer can be a powerful tool for healing those old hurts, fostering forgiveness.
So you're not praying for your partner to change, but for the strength to face those complexities together.
Right. Inviting a higher power into that blending process, helping you see each other with more compassion and understanding.
Not changing your partner, but changing your perspective. I like that.
And the author's advice about seeking guidance, it can be really helpful here. He says prayer isn't just about asking for things. It's about deepening your connection to something bigger than yourself.
Opening yourself up to wisdom, strength.
Yeah.
To get through those tough spots.
Yeah. And, for someone who's not religious or spiritual.
Right. Not everyone is.
Surrender, seeking guidance, it doesn't have to be religious.
Mm-hmm.
There are other practices that can give you that same sense of peace, acceptance.
Like what?
Mindfulness meditation, for one. You observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment, so you don't feel like you have to control them.
Okay, interesting.
Therapy can be helpful too. Exploring old patterns, learning better ways to cope.
Right. Makes sense.
Even simple things like connecting with nature, being creative, spending time with loved ones who lift you up. It can ground you, remind you you're not alone.
So finding what works for you, whether it's prayer, meditation, therapy, or just a walk in the woods. The point is to let go of trying to micromanage the relationship, trusting there's a bigger picture.
Exactly. Cultivating trust, acceptance in yourself and in the journey of the relationship. It can be incredibly freeing.
This has been so eye-opening. I'm already thinking differently about some of my own relationship stuff. What about you, listener? Anything standing out to you so far?
Yeah, it's easy to get swept up in all those feelings, especially in a second marriage, You might think you've already learned the hard lessons, but this idea of consciously choosing your thoughts, your actions, that's powerful.
It really is a shift in perspective, isn't it? Like, we have more control than we think. You can't always control what happens, but you can control how you react.
And that seems extra important in second marriages, right? With all that past baggage lurking around.
For sure. It's like the author says, it's not just two people coming together, it's two whole histories, two sets of expectations, two different ways of seeing the world, sometimes clashing.
Yeah, that could be a recipe for disaster if you're not careful.
It could, but it could also be a chance to grow like crazy. The key is to see those differences with curiosity, compassion, not judgment and blame.
Easier said than done, though, right?
It can be. But that's where all these tools we've been talking about come in. The mindfulness, seeking guidance, making conscious choices.
Yeah, they help you navigate those tough spots in a way that actually makes the relationship stronger, not weaker.
So it's not about finding the perfect partner or expecting some fairy tale.
Nope.
It's about showing up, even when it's tough.
That's the core of it. True love isn't finding someone who completes you. It's choosing to love someone, warts and all, and building a life together.
And that takes both people putting in the effort.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street. Both people got to be committed to understanding each other, talking honestly, working through conflicts in a healthy way.
The author talks about asking those tough questions like, are you letting old resentments poison things now? Are you really listening or just waiting for your turn to talk? Are you getting support when you need it?
Those are the questions we all need to be asking, not just in romantic relationships, but all of them. Taking responsibility for your part in making things work.
Man, this has been so insightful. I'm going to be thinking about this stuff for a while.
Me too. Relationships take work, but it's worth it.
Totally agree. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this one thought. The author says marriage is a journey, not a destination.
I like that.
It's about enjoying the ride, the ups and downs, and growing together along the way. So think about this. What's one small step you can take today to bring more intention, more awareness to your own relationships?
A good question for all of us.
Could be appreciating your partner, setting a boundary with a friend who's not so great for you, even just listening better. Little changes add up over time.
Every journey starts with a single step, right?
That's it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into second marriages, everyone. See you next time.